Hey, welcome to the Oakland Warriors podcast. This is Patrick.
And I'm Chuong.
And we talk about the Golden State Warriors from an old school fan's perspective, because if you didn't love them at their worst, you don't deserve them at their best.
Or I would argue because we're old school because we were born before 1990.
You can't prove that.
One of us was born before 1990.
Yeah.
One of us was born before 1980.
Yes?
Okay. All right.
So we're recording, and they seem to be doing a fire alarm test. So intermittently, in the background, you might hear a very harsh fire alarm.
Yeah. And you might hear us screaming if there is an actual fire in the building. So just listen for that too.
Yeah. Or we're still in the dead time of the NBA offseason.
Well, we're really stretching that theory of the NBA being a 12-month season, I think, right now. But thankfully, this week, as you know, is the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremony for 2018. So, what are your thoughts on the class of 2018?
It's an impressive class, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the three that always stand out to me are Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, and Grant Hill. Those guys are awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would argue that including Grant Hill, there's a Bay Area connection to all of them, right?
What's Grant Hill's Bay Area connection?
I believe Jason Kidd's Cal team beat Duke.
Yes, that is a connection, yeah.
And then Jason Kidd played for Cal, and Steve Nash. I was about to call him Steven Nash. I don't think he would like that.
I think his dad would be happy with that.
Yeah, when he's upset at him.
Yeah.
Steve Nash played for Santa Clara. So,
yes.
Yeah, Bay Area.
Yeah. And Jason Kidd also played at St. Joe's.
That is right. Oakland, Alameda. That's right.
Yeah, I saw him play a couple times.
In high school?
Yeah. At the because I was in high school at the same time. He was a couple years older than me.
Haha, you were born before 1980. Got you.
Busted. I'll just delete that.
Take care of that in post.
Yeah. I'll say rumor had it. But yeah, like everybody in the area would talk about this guy, Jason Kidd, because, we were in high school, we'd play basketball, and you would just know, but you didn't know who they were because there was no internet,
Yeah.
And they weren't talking about, like, they weren't featured in mainstream magazines or on TV.
It's just like whispers in the street, right, about Jason Kidd.
Yeah, like Jason Kidd. Who's Jason Kidd? And he's like, oh my God, he's like Magic Johnson.
Have you seen Jason Kidd?
I was like, oh my God. So I remember going to the Coliseum to watch the state finals, and I think they were playing Mater Dei.
Mm-hmm. Another basketball powerhouse from Southern California.
Yeah, and I think they won pretty handily.
Who, Mater Dei?
No, St. Joe's.
Oh, okay.
It was clear like who he was because he was a 6'4" point guard in high school, wide-bodied, who could just dominate everything. It was one of the more impressive things I'd ever seen in person at the high school level. But it was funny because my friends and I got there and we were like, which one is he during pregame? And we were like, oh, it's this dude. And then it was like, no, it's that. It turns out to be like the random looking light skinned
the ethnically ambiguous guy, right?
And we're like, oh, that's him.
I think he's in like the same category as maybe like Blake Griffin too, right? Like, oh, you guys are kind of ethnically ambiguous.
Well, Klay Thompson.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. So how was the? People must have been super pumped. What?
Yeah. It was because it was.
Could you just see how much better he was than everyone else on the court?
Yeah.
And like, could you? I'll follow up with another question. Were you able to predict at the time how good he would end up being? Like, did you know, like, oh, this guy's gonna be an all-star in the NBA?
I mean, I think we knew how good he was going to be. I think. Not just from seeing that, you know what I mean? Because when he played at Cal, eventually, like we
Go
just
Bears.
knew, we knew you could see it right there,
Sure.
right? Because he was just dominating. But in high school, he was so much bigger than people that were playing his position.
Yeah.
And at
point
6,
guard.
yeah,
6'4" point guard.
Yeah, and at 6, and he's thick,
Yeah.
And so he was really physical, and he was athletic for that age range and at that level, you know what I mean?
Gary Payton this week said that he was like the first LeBron.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody called him like the next Magic Johnson, and he He was awesome, man. And I loved that. I used to see him at Cal football games too when I was in high school. And then I think there was a point where like we would try to like, hey Jason, you know, kind of mess with him a little bit. But he would like turn and look. But then I think he was learning that he was famous and that he would not.
What's the over under on how the percentage of classes that Jason Kidd actually went to while he was at Cal?
Over under that. I don't know. This is the Todd Bozeman era, right?
Yeah, so probably not too many. Probably not too many. Todd Bozeman, for those of you who don't know, was an incredibly corrupt basketball coach, head coach of the Cal basketball team in the early 90s, and he was fired under incredible amount of controversy, right? Like, what did he do again?
I mean, I think he paid people stuff. Like that's it. Like I remember seeing. Do you remember Jelani Gardner?
Yes. Yeah.
Like in '95.
Who eventually transferred to Pepperdine, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, he left. But I remember seeing him on Telegraph driving like a brand new car, and I was like, "That's fine," you know. Like I don't know his background.
Sure.
But I was like, oh, I wonder if Bozeman bought him that car. Like it was a really nice shiny blue Jeep Cherokee or something.
Yeah. I mean, to give credit where it's due, though, Todd Bozeman is the reason why Jason Kidd went to Cal, right?
Yeah.
So
he must have paid.
But he's also the reason why Cal basketball has never recovered from the amount of corruption that was leveled on the program. So yeah,
they did have Ryan Anderson.
They did. Yeah.
That's for later.
We'll talk about him. Yeah. So Jason Kidd, yeah, I think he's definitely up there with Gary Payton as Brian Shaw. Isaiah J.R. Ryder as, you know, Oakland Bay Area like basketball legends, right? Mm-hmm. So that made it to the NBA, that did really well in the NBA, that had long careers. Yeah, I remember seeing Jason Kidd. I wasn't a huge Cal fan, even though you know, full transparency, I ended up going to Cal, but I saw him during the tournament.
So we're like opposites like that, because I was a huge Cal fan.
That's so weird. I was never a Cal fan. I wasn't even a Cal fan when I went to Cal initially. I was like, man, this team really sucks. I think the football team won one game my freshman year.
Was Justin Vetter the quarterback? No, that was after your time.
Justin Vetter was there. He was there maybe the second year. I forgot. Yeah, but he was around. Yeah, Justin Vetter. He was a transfer. Anyways, okay. Jason Kidd, yeah, man. Like when I think of Jason Kidd, I think of the passing, the game management, just like quintessential like big point guard who was really athletic. His vision, everything, like just being able to make a team and teammates better, right? What I find interesting though is that how he kind of became like a jump shooter, like towards the end of his career, right? Mm-hmm. When did he win that championship with the Mavs? That was what?
2011,
11 or 12, right?
Yeah,
I don't remember, but
he always had the most horrendous looking shot.
He was a really bad shooter for a really long time, and then all of a sudden he was shooting like 35 to 37% from three, like towards the end of his career, and that was his thing. Like if he was wide open, he would nail a 3-point shot. But I just remember how bad of a shooter he was for so long, right? And he didn't shoot. He never shot, right? He just took it to the hole. I remember him, the big three, him, Jamal Mashburn, and Jimmy Jackson.
The 3 Js?
3 Js, yeah. That was dismantled really quickly because of
Tony Braxton.
Tony Braxton, that's right. So who was involved in that love triangle?
I think it was Kidd was supposed to meet up with her, and then Jimmy Jackson called, like, you know, he was the cock blocker, and he was like, you know, Jason can't make it or something.
Really?
Like, I don't know.
That's some like next level cock blocking there. God damn.
That's based on what I barely remember in 1995.
Wow.
What about Steven Nash?
Mr. Steven Nash from Canada. Yeah, Santa Clara. I mean, I grew up in the South Bay, so it was kind of a big deal for Santa Clara Santa Clara University is a small Catholic Jesuit private university in like the middle of Silicon Valley, right? And is not known for much, but it's not a bad school. Certainly not a great athletic program, but Steven Nash, Steve Nash took Santa Clara to the NCAA tournament twice, and they had some big upset, right?
Yeah, they beat Arizona.
When Arizona was like a very high seed.
Yeah, it was like a 2-15 matchup.
I remember that. Yeah. So yeah, Steve Nash. I have nothing but superlatives to say about him. I love him. I love his like stance on like politics and socioeconomic issues. I think he seems like a good guy. Seems like he'd be a lot of fun to play with too. And I think he's underrated as like a scorer, a shooter. Like you see Steph Curry, he's like the next evolution of Steve Nash, right?
Right.
Because Steve Nash could shoot.
Yeah.
He could shoot the shit out of the ball. And when he was in college, I think he averaged over 20 points a game, right? Like easily.
Yeah.
I mean, his MVP seasons, he didn't average 20 points one of the seasons, right?
No, I don't think either.
Neither, but he just had a shit ton of assists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think about
Oh man,
Mr. Nash?
When he played at Santa Clara pretty much the same time as Jason Kidd being at Cal.
Sure.
Maybe I think Nash left like a year later, and I remember because
Nash played for 4 years, right? He graduated.
Did he? Okay,
I think so. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
Stephen Nash seems like the kind of guy.
Not the guy who's leaving early. What are we talking about here? This is early '90s.
We're talking about Stephen Nash here, guys.
Stephen J. Nash. I don't know what his middle initial is. But I actually couldn't stand him at Santa Clara because I didn't like his game, and I don't know, whatever. Like I just there was something. I was young and I was like, I don't like this guy.
Was it because he was like a pesky, like what's the word for like white guys who overachieve? Like
yeah, I mean, I was a Cal fan, and he always gave the Bears problems.
Yeah,
and I refused to believe that this guy was actually that good.
Yeah,
and he, and he kind of reminded me of who's that character who rode the motorcycle in Bad News Bears.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
they kind of look alike. That actor.
Yeah.
He played Rorschach in Watchmen too. What's his name? Yeah.
Yeah, and didn't he play Freddy Krueger in like one of the recent remakes?
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
But
Jackie Earl Haley. They do kind of look alike.
Yeah. So that's who. I mean, I was in high school, so my association was very from movies and TV.
It's like your cinephile and your basketball like kind of like joined forces for that opinion of opinion without any basis about Steve Nash.
And that's how the rest of my life went.
Yeah.
But do you remember that when Nash went, there was a certain point when the Phoenix Suns had Kevin Johnson, Jason Kidd, and Steve Nash.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, like Nash wasn't that great.
How long was he on the Suns before he was traded to the Mavs?
Oh man, it must have been like a hot minute, maybe like a year, or maybe 2 or something.
I mean, think about like how his career, like, so he gets drafted by the Suns and he's stuck behind 2 arguable legends, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes to the Mavs the same year they draft Dirk Nowitzki and fucking magic. Michael Finley's there too. Like God, like that just really like was another fork in his career, right? Like he could have been stuck on the bench, maybe never would have gotten a chance if he was still in the Suns.
Yeah. And
then ironically goes back to the Suns and becomes MVP back-to-back years. So
yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think what kind of late bloomer he was, because it took a few years for him to really kind of flourish after getting drafted. And that's why when like the Steph Curry comparisons, it's like Curry was good his first year, you know what I mean? He averaged like, was it 15, 16, 17?
Middle teens, yeah.
Yeah, and it's only the ankle injuries that kind of derailed his ascension, more or less. So, yeah, but like...
Well, they're both, if you think of it like them as analogous players, like they're both like 6'3". They're both small-framed, right? Good shooters, good passers, but not very strong. And I think they both they took some time to develop like physically to get used to the physicality of the game.
Right.
Running around screens constantly, getting bumped all the time. Like it's tough when you're like 100 and I don't know, like 70 pounds.
Yeah.
And you're 6'3" and you have no muscles. Like Steph Curry's like pretty yoked now. So
yeah,
but that took time.
Yeah. And it was also about, kind of finding like an opportunity to kind of play their game.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And to be like let loose.
Exactly. So, yeah. Steph Curry used to be benched in the fourth quarter. Like as a defensive substitution for
AC Law?
No, not AC Law. I forgot he played for the Warriors. Fucking I don't know, man. I don't know. Someone like who couldn't carry his jockstrap, I guess.
Bimbo Coles was on the team again.
But okay, so Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, of course, well deserved. Congratulations to those guys. I'm sure you're listening. So, and you mentioned Grant Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I couldn't stand Grant Hill at Duke, but I was a big fan. Have you seen highlights recently of how good he was in Detroit?
Yes. On the NBA subreddit, like a lot of people, a lot of like the old heads like us will be like, "Oh, you guys didn't know what." You guys never knew what LaFonso Ellis was like. Watch this video clip of him, like, and you will occasionally see Grant Hill like videos, and God, that guy was so good. I distinctively remember watching a lot of him when he was on TV. It's like I hated him on Duke too, but then once he shaved that flat top and shaved his head and went to the Pistons, like I was like, I'm in, I'm totally in, right?
Yeah.
Like how would you describe his game for those people who were never able to see him?
He could do anything he wanted.
Yes.
I mean, he at 6'8",
yes,
long and lanky. I mean,
athletic, could jump out of the gym.
Yep.
Great defender,
decent shooter,
okay shooter, yeah. But he got better, yeah.
Kind of good all around passer,
Mm-hmm.
So. People say also he was like LeBron.
Yeah,
just
without
like
the size,
just like they were saying Jason Kidd is like LeBron.
I know. Well, Jason Kidd I can see from like the beefiness, right? But like Grant Hill's skinny. He was like super skinny.
Yeah, he still is.
And that's like that's a big what if, right? Like if his career didn't shake out, like if he got traded when he signed with Orlando with Tracy McGrady, if his ankle was still not fucked up and he was still could play at the level he did when he was on the Pistons. I mean, this guy. There's a video I saw recently on NBA subreddit where he crossed up prime Scottie Pippen and just jammed on him. And I was like, wow, like that's Scottie Pippen. You just like broke his ankles, man.
Yeah, and he was like Scottie Pippen but better.
Yes,
right.
More offensive game.
Yeah, and could
more
do,
passing.
Yeah, could do like more things.
You're right. His game is like he was like a LeBron. Like he could do everything.
There was a part of me that very much became a fan of Grant Hill, and then I was so bummed when he got hurt with the ankle because the NBA was really searching in the like the late 90s for someone to replace the star,
the next MJ, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so,
well, his did he ever play with Jerry Stackhouse? Because that was another next MJ, right?
Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Harold Miner.
Yeah.
But like I always, because I wasn't a fan of Kobe's. I was like Grant Hill is the one guy that could play Kobe straight up.
Yeah.
Like that's what I used to hope and think, but he never, got healthy enough.
He never got healthy, and he always had shit teams.
Yeah.
Not shit, like not great teams. You know? So, well deserved, I would say as well. Like Hall of Fame. Like thank goodness, like he made it to the Hall of Fame, even though his prime years were cut short, right?
I mean, that guy could have been like a top. Depending on if he was
top
ever
20. Easy.
ever on a winning team,
top 20.
He could have been like how many? Just imagine who he was at his peak, and if that continued an upward trajectory in terms of like small forwards, right? There's Larry Bird, there's LeBron, there's KD, like there's Scottie Pippen, a bunch of old dudes too. You know what I mean? And like
Tracy McGrady made the Hall of Fame last year.
Oh, that guy's badass, man.
Yeah, he was great. He was so good too.
But I prefer O'Donnell Foyle.
For his philanthropic efforts, I would adore Donald Foyle because he does a lot of good stuff.
Right.
That brings up something I wanted to mention with Grant Hill. Like he was another example of a guy who just evolved this game, right? Because after he wasn't able to move as well and lost some of his athleticism, he ended up playing until he was like 42. And he ended up becoming a pretty good shooter. Like he played on the Suns teams with Steve Nash, right? Mm-hmm. So, but by then he was like really old. He's like in his late 30s.
Yeah. But oddly enough, like he looked exactly the same.
He looked exactly the same. He had like even better stamina than he probably did before, right? Like
I mean, except his ankle's like 200 years old.
Well, they were saying like the number of miles on that he had accrued by the time he was like that age was like much less than another player that would be the same age who actually played all most of the 82 games a season just because he was out so much, right?
Wait, speaking of Tracy McGrady, when Grant Hill was a free agent and he went to Orlando, what can you imagine like if they had Tracy McGrady and a healthy Grant Hill? I know they tried to get Tim Duncan too, and that didn't happen. But
that was the same free agency season, right? Like,
I think so.
They were kind of close to getting Tim Duncan, or at least like, well, Tim Duncan's a nerd, so they're probably like, hey, check it out, man. We got Disney World. We have Universal Studios Orlando.
You got strip malls for days.
Strip malls for days, man. Yeah, that would have been crazy if Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady. That sort of man. Who'd have played? How would they have? Yeah, who would have been like the two? Who would have played the three?
Well, traditionally, I mean, Grant Hill was a 3, and McGrady played 2 a lot.
He did play 2 a lot. He played 2 with Vince Carter, right? Like,
yeah, and Carter played 3.
Yeah, and Carter played 3. So, yeah, God, devastation. It would be like having 2 Scottie Pippens, right?
Yeah. Who could score like crazy,
and both long as fuck. And that was like before position by position players were taller. So you would have a 6'8" guy at 3, a 6'8", 6'9" guy with like a 7-foot wingspan at 2, right? He'd like tower over, like, I mean, if Derek Anderson is going up against Tracy McGrady, like a 6'4" guy against him, like, destroy him, you know?
Yeah, Derek Anderson from Kentucky?
Yeah.
That's a good reference.
Thank you. Yeah, so Hall of Fame. That's who else? Ray Allen, of course. We didn't talk about him, but well deserved as well. He mentioned that he wasn't going to enter under any specific team.
Yeah, because that's only a baseball thing, right?
Yeah, and also because everyone hates him. Everyone hates him. So
I don't think the Sonics or the Bucks hate him.
No. That was another big 3. That was Ray Allen, Sam Cassell, and Big Dog, right?
I don't know if that's a big 3.
They called it the big 3. They called it their big 3. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Oakland Warriors podcast. Do you know Oakland Warriors is a website too? OAKLANDWarriors.com offers a collection of Warriors t-shirts that are comfy, classy, and cool. Fit for a real Warriors fan like you. Forget basic tees and boring designs. With Oakland Warriors, you can show your team pride with those in the know. So come celebrate the new Death lineup with Steph, Clay, Draymond, KD, and Boogie. Rep the Hamptons 5 and show some love for China Clay. I have a shirt from OaklandWarriors.com. It's comfy and soft, and it reps the Dubs in a low-key but fun way. Don't believe me? Check out OaklandWarriors.com and use the code podcast at checkout for a 10% discount.
Well, speaking, we talked about, what ifs with Grant Hill, his injury. We talked about what ifs with like careers and stuff, and I kind of want to segue a little bit to another what if.
Sure.
What if DeMarcus Cousins is gonna be close to what he is by the time? Have you seen these videos that are popping up?
I have. I saw. I know you sent a couple to me.
Yeah. Could you tell how excited I was?
Yeah. No, I didn't see any emojis, not many exclamations.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was typical kind of stoic, terse. Like, hey, here's some information.
Hey, look, watch this. No, I was very, very excited, very enthusiastic. So, did you see the video where DeMarcus Cousins is doing those drills, those cone drills? Like dribbling through the cones and then like just jacking up a ton of threes.
Yeah. I mean, the guy is talented, and I hope. I mean, if he gets to like 75% of who he was, I'll be happy. I mean, it's a brilliant situation for him to be in. That if you put on any other team that's not the Warriors, way too much pressure to come back like before the end of the calendar year. So now he gets to just chill. He can chill past the spring if he wanted.
Yeah. Well, the Warriors are going to start at the 5.
Damian Jones. I would think so.
Yeah. Right.
Him, or I mean, you could go with Bell as well, but I think
that's a small lineup, like because you have Draymond at the 4 and Bell at the 5.
Exactly.
Although that would be a pretty exciting lineup to watch.
Yeah, and like Bell is pretty short.
Yeah. He's not like he's listed as what 6'7", 6'8", but I think he's like.
I think he was listed in the draft as like 6'9", right?
He's definitely not 6'9".
Maybe his high top puts him there.
Yeah. I mean, he could jump.
I mean, he's Klay Thompson's height.
Because Klay Thompson is like a legit 6'7", 6'8", right?
Yeah, 6'7", I think. Yeah.
But so besides Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, they would field a squad of guys and Andre. I'd throw him in there too. There's and Sean Livingston, all the same height, like between 6'6" to 6'8", right? Like switchable.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's who would play the 5.
Yeah, I think they would put Jones in because
Sure.
they want to see what what better situation than like playing with like the 4 All-Stars in a season
Sure.
where they don't have to do much.
And all he has to do is rebound, set picks,
See what you got.
see what you got exactly, and play with energy, right? And don't make stupid mistakes.
Yep.
I think he'll be fine. I saw him play for Santa Cruz a few games. I actually saw him in person once. I was at a brewery in Santa Cruz, and he was just hanging out with these nice seeming like local Santa Cruz like liberal hippie like middle-aged people. It was weird. It's like they adopted him or something.
Get him out of there.
He so I think Boogie looked great in the videos. Obviously these videos there's a certain like narrative behind them, right? Like look, the comeback, or
Right.
set to very dramatic music, like and it's shot in black and white, and I get it, but it's still pretty exciting to imagine what he could be like, bring to this team, what could he be like when he comes back.
Yeah. You could pretty much like. It's funny, right? The Showtime clip of him dunking was funny because it's like they show him jumping off his left foot, which his Achilles is the left, right?
I think so.
Okay, and I assume so because they made a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
But and as he pushes, they cut right.
Yeah.
To his hand, like barely getting over the rim. A la Chris Mullin. And
Chris Mullin in his prime.
Chris Mullin
athletic
in his
prime.
prime.
Yeah.
And dunking it, right?
Yeah.
And it's well, I guess I didn't see how high he jumped, but then you know what I mean. It's like two things cut together, right?
Yep.
Because they can't have the camera on one leg and then whatever. Maybe they had 2 cameras, but regardless, it's early. I have no idea like where he should be compared to other people and his in his rehab process, but I mean the fact that he can move like that at all is promising considering it's beginning of September.
Yeah. He's definitely not based on the videos, based on the limited data that we have, right? Like you couldn't tell if he's ready for the season. He's probably not ready for the season. He looks like I always thought he was a little bit pudgy, but he looked pretty slim.
Yeah, he did.
He was working out with his shirt off, but I don't know if he's definitely gonna be ready for the season, like he said when he first signed with the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
I think realistically after the All-Star break, right? Just bring in for like 10-15 minute spells, see how he goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see how he can recover from like the cutting movements, right? Like,
Yeah.
because he wasn't doing any. He was very like linear, like his movements, like going up and down the court. He wasn't doing a lot of cutting, and even when he did like crossover a little bit, he was pretty slow.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the Achilles is not has not historically been an injury that players have recovered from like often, right?
No. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean we'll see. I mean he's young-ish. I mean he's still like 28 or something.
Yes.
But I mean the dude's a big dude, and
What would you say he was before the injury? He was like 1 to 10 athletic scale. Where would you put him?
I would put him at like a 7.5 or something. Like he didn't, I don't know if I'm underrating him, but he was solid. He could do like basic things, but his real value is his crazy skill set.
Yes.
Post moves, shooting, rebounding, and just being a big body that uses that body well. So.
And I just confirmed it was the left Achilles that was injured. You're shooting. I would say like passing from the high post.
Yeah.
Right. Like really good vision. Like he's a really good passer.
Mm-hmm.
When they were when the Pelicans were running the offense through him, and when it seemed like him and Anthony Davis were starting to gel right before he got injured. Like they're running a lot of like cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Alvin Gentry is a great coach, really good offensive mind. So using Boogie that way, whereas in the past, the last center they were able to do that was probably Andrew Bogut, right?
Yeah.
So I see them using him in a similar way, and in fact, they're both kind of hobbled in a similar way too. So
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's a really brilliant point because, like, I think that
brilliant. Thank you. Oh. I'll try to have another one.
not too often.
Okay.
But the fact that folks are excited about just Boogie Cousins because of his all-star talent, but you're right. Like, it's the passing that might make it the most entertaining. That might really just kind of, everybody says, oh, it'll unlock this, but like this team's already unlocked. It's not going to unlock shit.
They need more facilitators, if anything. Right.
So, but it might just kind of make it like even more like absurdly fun to watch.
Yeah. You have passing at the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 3. I mean, KD is probably the weakest passer out of all 5 of them, but he's still a pretty good passer. Clay's good, man. Oh yeah, okay, fine. You're right. Okay, so I would say Clay and KD would, if you're gonna argue that they're weak passers.
Yeah, because they're both excellent passers.
They're great passers, but you have Steph, who's an otherworldly passer, Draymond, who's an otherworldly passer, and then you have Boogie. Wow.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 of the greatest shooters of all time, who aren't focused on like distributing, and then you have the greatest shooter of all time, Steph Curry, who, if he wants to, wow. Actually, and then now you have all five starters. If Boogie like ends up becoming a starter, who can shoot the 3 really well. Yeah. Well, except for Draymond, sorry.
And then your first 2 guys off the bench are really good passers too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's more of the same, right? More of what they need. And it's just in a position that historically they haven't been able to get that from. Yeah. Besides, like, again, Andrew Bogut.
I hope that they take a long time to bring him back, but I can't wait. Just plain and simple, as like a fan. I mean, other teams are gonna. I have no idea, because the Warriors, they haven't had a post presence, right? Like, that's what they keep saying. Like, sure, I mean, post presence in the sense that they can just throw it down to somebody, they can go score, right? Like, KD is their best like low post player, and then Clay is the next one, right? Mm-hmm. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to just see like what happens with that,
Yeah, and it'll be fun to see all the comeback videos that keep popping up throughout the season too. 'Cause he's not gonna be playing, so he's gonna be sitting on the bench. So.
That's him sitting on the bench, like cheering the team on, being like, the comeback.
Yeah, I'm curious to see like what his presence will be on social media too once the season starts as well. So
yeah. And I had no idea Showtime like did stuff like this. But
I had no idea. You saw the watermark and you're like, oh, Showtime. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Showtime. It's like that's good. It's like kind of like HBO, right?
Kind of like HBO. Do they have? When I was growing up, Showtime, it was Cinemax was the Skinemax, yeah. But Showtime had their stuff. Right? Red Shoe Diaries, right? That was a Showtime show, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
I don't know. I don't know. I heard
we never had premium cable, so these are like what my other friends.
We had a family member who worked for the cable company, so we got free cable, including so it's great.
You guys.
Yeah.
Hustlers.
Speaking of social media, have you been keeping up with NBA Twitter or going on Reddit or anything?
I haven't gone onto Reddit. I've been laying off NBA Twitter because we talk about how this is the dead time of the off season. Man, NBA Twitter is just really just depressing right now.
What was the last thing you remember seeing on NBA Twitter?
Nothing that actually is worth remembering. It's just people kind of rambling about nothing of import, you know what I mean?
But it's going to fire up once the preseason starts, it's going to fire up. Well, I would argue once training camp.
Yeah, that's like in a couple weeks.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
can't wait. Then we actually have something to talk about.
Yeah. Besides memories.
Yeah, exactly.
What have you seen?
There's been a few interesting things. I'm curious to see what your take is, since you haven't you haven't been on social media, NBA social media. One item that caught my attention was interesting. Former Warrior legend Matt Barnes filed a restraining order against his ex-wife and filed for full custody of the kids. Apparently they got into a thing, and he filed a complaint stating that she had a attempted assault with a deadly weapon, i.e. her car. Some situation where she was revving the car, or the car like hit him and one of their sons or whatever. But anyways, just drama.
Hit the kid?
I don't know, man.
Those kids are little.
Yeah, drama. Just like
Sure.
Whenever I think about that couple, I don't follow like celebrity gossip or anything. I just know that Matt Barnes and his wife have a very volatile relationship. If you think a few years ago, Matt Barnes drove like hours to his ex-wife's house because she was dating Derek Fisher, and he was like chasing. The story goes he was chasing Derek Fisher around an island.
Really?
Yeah, like a kitchen island. You know, like those big kitchen islands.
Yeah.
He's like chasing him around, like, I'm gonna kick your ass, whatever.
Are you serious? I didn't hear that.
You didn't know
part
that,
of it.
dude?
I knew he drove down there. I didn't get this run around the island thing.
Yeah, because Derek Fisher, who also happens to be a former teammate of Matt Barnes on the Lakers, started dating his ex-wife. Right. So just complete violation of the bro code, man.
I think they're still together, right?
I think they might still be together.
Yeah.
And it's another interesting thing about that. I mean, I don't want to make light of a tough situation, especially since they have kids, right?
Sure.
But I thought that was interesting. So I hope I hope they work it out one way or another. Another social media tidbit that came up was speaking of marriages, Steph Curry's little sister, Seidel. She got married.
Yeah, that's nice.
And there have been these videos of. You catch these videos of Steph Curry just doing like casual stuff, like on a plane, playing golf, dancing.
I saw him on a plane.
He's just kind of living his best life right now, man. Like he was having a great time at the wedding.
Yeah, he is living his
best life.
Smoking a cigar,
like just everyone's dancing around him. Like he's having a great time. So.
Yeah, he's living like everybody's dream, right? Everybody who like wasn't crazy athletic and could do something on the court. It's like, oh yeah. It's good,
and will probably be a Hall of Famer. Will
probably
3-time champion, maybe more, hopefully. 2-time MVP and two-time, right?
Two-time, yeah.
2-time MVP. And the guy's just barely turned 30, right? He's 31, 32 or something. So 33, 30. Okay,
he's 30.
Wow,
man. Yeah,
wow.
Born in 87.
So
March of 87.
All of that and all the accolades. So yeah, I think all of that was just distilled in this video of seeing him dancing, like just pure unbridled like happiness.
Yeah, I mean he's the engine. You know what I mean? He's the reason why the Warriors are the Warriors. So
he got his new bro-in-law,
Damian Lee.
Yeah, got signed to a contract, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be awkward.
Is he gonna play? Wait, is it like a D-League? NBA,
sure.
What are those called again? The two-way. Was that a two-way contract?
Maybe, I don't know. I read it a while ago. I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't follow college basketball too much, but I don't know if this guy's
actually any good. Yeah, I mean he might be.
He might be okay.
He might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
He hasn't been on my radar at all.
This is like when J.R. Smith's like 6'1" brother got signed by the Knicks in the preseason. But didn't make it out of like the preseason or something like that. Just like was able to sit on the bench like up until the season started. So
don't get me started on J.R. Smith.
Okay. Okay.
I do want to say something about the Matt Barnes thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like Matt Barnes is hilarious because if you ever like in interviews and when you hear him talk, he sounds like just a nice guy. You know, like he when he was with the We Believe team, his mom passed away from cancer, and everybody like really felt for him, and then. Like when he talks, he has some interesting things to say, and he's kind of funny too. But then he has like this weird side where it's like he's very volatile and like almost, he reminds me of like dudes that you kind of know growing up who are like, oh, that guy's cool, but then he's just like, you put him in something will just like make him go, yeah. I'll fight. Yeah, sure. Like, I'll kick his ass. Sure. So that's, I think, what
you could be like having a great time at a barbecue or something, and then something happens, and then just the switch flips. I agree with you. I think I love Matt Barnes. I love what he did for our team. But I read these accounts of people meeting him on the street. There's random NBA fans, and like he's apparently always nice to them. Always down to take pictures, sign autographs, actually have conversations with people. I've read on like the NBA subreddit, like people who serve in restaurants, and he would like talk to them, give them a nice tip. So like for all intents and purposes, like you were right, he seems like a nice guy, but he definitely has a dark side, and he like keeps it real. Like,
and he seems like he has like his own personal kind of code of conduct.
Yeah,
right?
He keeps like, exactly. Code of conduct. That's a good way of putting it. Like you break one of these rules, then like you're dead to me. And I'm like, Do you remember his beef with Mo Cheeks? He was a second round pick of the 76ers when Mo Cheeks was the coach.
Right.
And apparently the story goes when he was still a rookie and he was just like shooting threes, right? And Mo Cheeks walks by. He's like second round rookie, like barely made the team. shooting threes, and Mo Cheeks is like, what are you doing? Why are you shooting threes? You're never going to make threes. You're never going to make threes in the NBA, right? And he remembered that. And so when he was on the We Believe Warriors, there was a game where they played the Sixers.
Yep.
And he shot a ton of threes and made them. And after every three, he would just like turn to Mo Cheeks and just
remember that.
barking. You remember that?
I remember that game, yeah.
I think Mo Cheeks broke one of his other codes of conduct, like maybe the loyalty code, or I don't know, like not being there for me when you could have been a good mentor for me or something like that, right? Like he doesn't take disrespect like lightly. Right?
No.
I would say perceived disrespect, right?
Yeah, that's why he's such a he's such a '90s dude to me, right? Like, cause he just represents that like kind of vibe. But it's also funny because like I remember, when he played at UCLA, I was like, this guy's garbage.
Yeah, like, he was volatile in college too.
Yeah, he was kind of like the tough guy, right?
He was the tough guy for those teams. He was the tough guy on the Baron Davis team, right?
Yeah.
Baron Davis, him, Earl Watson, like he was the enforcer.
Yeah, and I was pulling for like Stanford and Cal.
Yeah, of
and
course.
So,
Dan Gadzuric. Yeah. That team was loaded.
Yeah, and so when I wasn't a Matt Barnes fan, and I was. When you think about it, like that guy had a long ass NBA career,
he did,
man.
And he played 4 years in college.
Yeah,
he played 4 years in college. So all those guys all the UCLA guys he played with, they all left before he graduated. He was the guy carrying that team. He played four in college. He was like a skinny power forward. And then he gets drafted in the second round by the Sixers and just ekes out this like incredibly long career.
Yeah.
So what's the verdict on Matt Barnes? Thumbs up or thumbs down? I'm a big thumbs up.
Oh, dude, I love Barnes,
that guy.
Man. That guy, I loved him when he was on the We Believe team.
Yes.
It was all like, obviously, when a player you don't like ends up on your team, you love him, right?
You love him. You always love him. Yeah.
And it was great to see him get a ring. Although, like, I wish he was more of a factor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And still jacked up some ugly threes, but
I still remember he had like a couple signature dunks. Of course, Andres Biedrins also had a couple signature dunks. So, but yeah, Matt Barnes, man, he played for the Warriors for what, 2 years? Not even.
Was it? I don't. Man, the We Believe is a blur.
It was 2 years. The We Believe team was 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but he was only on it for those 2 years.
I think so. I don't remember.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, they blew up that team really fast.
Yeah, that was another team of guys who were about 6'8".
Yeah,
just ran like. Whether like I guess Richardson's 6'6".
Yeah, because Steven Jackson couldn't handle the ball too.
Yep, yeah. And even throw Petrus out there like off the bench. Like
yes,
the
that's right.
Man off the bench.
6'6", 6'7", Michael Petrus.
Yeah, and so. But that's a whole nother what if.
So me bringing up Matt Barnes really triggered a lot of feelings for you, huh?
Love Matt Barnes.
Yeah. We if Matt Barnes, if you're listening, if you ever want to be on the show, and you're in Los Angeles, give us a holler, please. The one final thing I wanted to mention about social media is so you're familiar with the concept of China Clay, right? When Klay Thompson went to China, or he goes every year because he's an onside guy, right?
OaklandWarriors.com sells shirts that say China Clay.
They do. Okay. I hope we hear that link again at some point during this episode.
It'll be in the middle of it somewhere.
He talking about living his best life. He lives his best life all the time, and apparently, like, social media just ran with videos of him having a great time in China and stuff. So, this summer he's in Qatar, the country of Qatar. Qatar Clay in the Middle East he was with Luke Walton, who's probably like surreptitiously trying to recruit him. He was with Melo and he's with Tracy McGrady. So a bunch of 6'8" guys just hanging out in Qatar. Yep. And he was wearing like the Arabic hat, I think it's called the kafia. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that word. He was riding a camel, and he's sporting a beard now, so he doesn't look like a supervillain anymore with a goatee mustache. He actually has a full beard now and a little bit of an afro. So yeah, he looks like he's having a great time.
You thought he looked like a supervillain?
Kind of, right? With that like goatee mustache, like the little like oval around your mouth.
He just looked like the guy in the club that you're like, who's that dude?
Like just like kind of like dead in the eyes. It's like, what is he thinking about?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of still how he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see any. I saw a photo of him with like Luke Walton, and But Klay Thompson, man, I look at Klay Thompson and some guy who, obviously son of an NBA player.
Sure.
But then like he was okay in high school from what I've read for a couple years, and obviously developed the skill, the shot.
He was a modern day guy.
No.
Yeah.
No.
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 No. He went to some other school. I forgot what it was.
Because I know he grew up in Oregon,
right?
But then he played basketball in
in
Orange County somewhere. But it was not Mater Dei. Okay, I apologize.
But then he just ended up being like really.
You're right, Santa Margarita.
Yeah. But any insights from Cutter?
None, except for it was funny. Like there was a photo of Klay, Carmelo, Luke, and Tracy McGrady, and I don't know who posted it, but then Klay Thompson said next big three champions. he commented to that, and then immediately after that, Carmelo had commented, "Fuck out of here."
I mean, that's funny.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Like just like having that like wherewithal to like have that kind of comment, like it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you think people like Melo and Tracy McGrady look at Klay Thompson, they're like, man, that guy's really good, or like that guy has a distinct skill, but
besides the shooting,
yeah, like he's a good shooter and he ended up on a great team, and he kind of built his game up from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The defense though, man.
Yeah.
Really good defender.
Yeah.
Really good help defender, really good team system guy too, right?
Yep.
Just like smart, high basketball IQ.
Yeah.
So you have a high basketball IQ guy who's like okay athletically, but also is tall enough where he can get a shot off at any time and happens to be a really good shooter. It's a tough combination, man.
Yeah.
Like Carmelo was never a defender, No. Offensively, he was like one of the best like shooters and like offensive players, of his generation, but the rest of his game suffered, I think. Tracy McGrady was an overall better player because he was a good defender too, but for some reason he just never get out of the first round.
Yeah,
couldn't carry a team, I guess. I don't know.
All right, well that's another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. Thank you for bearing with us through the dead part of the off season
and the fire alarms. So
check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, OaklandWarriors.com, buy a t-shirt,
and give us a rating on iTunes if you like what you're hearing, and feel free to give us some feedback too. This is Chung signing out.
This is Patrick. Later. Music in this episode provided by Paper Sun. Special thanks to Jeff Oakey as well as Paul Amardo for production support. See you next time, and go Dubs.